Welcome to Twitch University, where we learn about the best way to navigate Twitch as a viewer and a streamer. We interview a variety of streamers, moderators, and creators to learn about best practices, hear wisdom, and listen to the story about each person's Twitch journey. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Let's see here. All right, that's better. Now you can hear me. Yes, now you can hear me. Okay, I took it off mute. So to my right, you have DJ Daz, my co-host, Ames. I was saying, so good to see you. Such a pleasant surprise. We miss you. Hope you're well, and thank you for tuning in. We're still here cruising right along. So good. Great to see you. And Daz, how are you doing? How's your summer doing?
It honestly a rough summer. I got a new job with a tough schedule, but we're about to move on to another new job. We're doing a double pivot this summer and moving into a better place. So that's where we're at. The summer's about to get a lot better this summer.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for that shout out for DJ Daz. What's up, Cop and Cutie? Good to see you. Welcome. So Daz, we've got some things going on with Twitch that are new. What do you want to talk about first? Before at about 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 on the West, we're going to get DJ Artistic in here to join us. What do you want to discuss first, real quick?
Just the biggest update, and it's they raised the price on one of my favorite things on Twitch, and that's Turbo. They raised the price on Turbo, $3 increase from I think it was $8.99 to $11.99. So if you're a Twitch Turbo subscriber and you wonder what's this new $11.99, that's your Turbo. That's your no commercial fee.
Yes. So I think you'll see some people, they have the little like battery badge before their name. That means you've got Turbo. So that's what you'll see there. Are you still going to subscribe to it, or are you going to let it go?
I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it.
Okay.
My bot that occasionally I'll cruise channels with to give people an extra view or two while I'm doing it. We'll go to getting the channel and there's commercials. And I am just so not used to it that yeah, I'll keep paying for it. It's a cost of basically 2 subs. You know, okay. I give my bot a sub, give Stream Elements a sub, and I'll give myself 2 more subs. So,
all right.
For Turbo, and it's worth it to me to not have any commercials anywhere I go at all ever.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So we got that going on. Christina, what is going on? This Christina is in the building. So they just finished, I think it was a couple of days ago, they just finished TwitchCon Paris. So, and thank you, DJ Daz, for that resub. 33 months. Appreciate that. Boho, what's up? Good to see you, Boho. So at TwitchCon, which they just finished, they announced improvements to making clips. So that was one thing they announced, because they're trying to let people, maybe in late August, start exporting clips to TikTok right away. So that's coming there. And then they're also introducing like a discovery feed, which is also going to be a offshoot of the clips, where people will make clips, and that's how discovery will happen. So we'll see about that. There'll be feature clips too. And then they're always pushing guest star. Guest star is really, really important for all of the Twitch executives, and then they're pushing it really hard. We use Ping because we have better control over the audio and the video. So guest star, they continue to make improvements and do that. So that's they also have like they're adding on to the shared band information for mods. So now they're adding shared mod comments. So they're adding shared mod comments there too. And I think last month they announced alerts. So sometimes people can make specific alerts that pop in to make the screen like with confetti and things like that. So they're kind of doing that.
That was on my list of things.
Go ahead. Well, tell us what else is on your list.
Let's see. Doesn't pertain so much to me, but some of the definitely not to me. The Partner Plus. I'd like to know a little bit more about the Partner Plus thing. I'm sure you've read more about it than I have, and I first really heard about it from, I guess, Volatile. He was pushing yesterday on his stream, and made me look into it a little bit. And it seems like maybe not a whole lot of DJs that stream are going to reach that Partner Plus goal, but there's some that definitely will. But I'm curious as to what's your feelings on that.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, the Partner Plus program, so instead of getting a 50-50, it's really like a 47-53 split. So you get a 50-50 split on your subs, you'll get 70-30. The key is that you have to have 350 recurring paid subscriptions for 3 straight months. That is without gift subs. So you have to have 350 people, I think it's individual subs and it's not sub points, that sub to you without gift subs for 3 straight months. Then once you do that, you qualify for the Partner Plus program, which will give you 70-30 split. So you get 70% of the sub revenue instead of 50%. The hard part would be, and that's for 12 months up to $100,000. The challenge with that is getting 350 subs without the gifted subs. That was one of the main complaints from many, many people who are like, they might get 350 subs, but a lot of their subs, maybe 50% comes from gifted. That was the main thing. So that is what it is. It would take me a lot of work to get there. It's possible.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Now, what you had said 350 recurring subs. Now, I know there are some people like me that I kind of go month to month. I'll do my subs and then I'll set it so it's not recurring. That I manually, basically if I'm going back to a channel and I wait for a hype train, then I'll resub.
Mhm.
But a lot of them, just so I don't automatically make them recurring.
Right.
I go month to month. Um, it's trying to hopefully no disrespect to any of the DJs or streamers that I follow.
Yeah.
I do it for
Mhm.
I love. I know you can hold on to that little sub thing at the end, but it allows me to if I want to. Okay, I want to upgrade my tier when I come in, or I want to change the length of it, or whatever. It's but I kind of do it month to month. I don't do really recurring. Um, so is that recurring really matter in that for the
It does matter. So I think that is,
okay.
I think they look at a certain point in time and check to make sure you have 350 subs, like by, let's say today's the 10th. So by
Hmm.
every 17th of the month, they expect for you to have those subs there. So if people are renewing, as long as they renew within a month or right after, that's how they're tracking it from what
All
I
right.
am aware of. But
Okay.
it's,
Cool.
a lot of people, because like Kick gives you 95-5 split right off the bat. And so this is maybe as due to some pressure, although they say no, due to some pressure of people moving over to Kick, this could be their response to it also. But it's still very difficult for the majority of partners to reach. What's up, Greta Lady G? Good to see you. CC, what's up? But that's good that at least they're doing something. They should really do tiers 50-50, maybe affiliates 60-40 for partners, then partner plus 70-30. That's been mentioned a lot. I don't know if they'll change that, but that's been mentioned too, because there's no real difference besides emotes from affiliate to partner.
Right.
So that was us, probably the other big news there. We'll see how this continues to evolve, because they made this change pretty quickly after, I forget what happened. Something else happened where people were up in arms, and this change also came. So we'll continue to monitor. It's very interesting. Um, Last time we talked was maybe a couple months ago. We've still seen more and more people go over to Kick. Have you thought about that? What's been your experience with that, Daz?
I have not made the jump over to Kick. I have recommended it to people to give it a try if it's something they're interested in.
Mhm.
It's people that kind of like to uh, live on the edges a little bit of what may be allowable on Twitch versus a different program because the TOS is either a little different. I haven't read them over at Kick or just not as enforced. Um,
Yes.
Not sure, but no. So I've people that I know that like to play the edges. I've recommended Kick to them as well too. As something to look
Yeah.
into.
In addition to the more attractive subsplit Kick, significantly less moderation. There's a lot going on there, so keep that in mind. Let me see here. Artistic, thanks for the follow. We're gonna get you on here one moment. Lily C. Rose, thank you for the sub. Happy sub, appreciate you. Thank you very much. Trying to get Lily C. Rose on the stream too. Coming soon. So yeah, that's always interesting. We'll have to ask both LV and we'll have to ask Artistic about their thoughts on that, because it's always good to see people's perspective. I think it's good for competition. There's a couple other competitors that are kind of percolating up. I want to say one is like Live Space, and they have all the necessary licenses to play music and everything, which is interesting because they've got it all lined up ahead of time. So that's one interesting one to watch. We'll maybe do some reviews of that next month. Um, Anything else before we get to our first guest this evening?
The new the breakdown of the analytics that are available to you now on your page. I have really enjoyed being able to um, take a look at all of the different things. The most fun, even it makes no bearing on my channel or anything that I get a serious thing is seeing how my emotes are doing outside of my channel. They have a breakdown.
Yeah.
What emotes get used in your channel, and what are your emotes doing out in the wild? And I just get a kick out of seeing which emotes of mine that my folks use out there.
Yeah, me too. I
But
love it.
there's a ton of other breakdowns in that
Right.
in your analytics that you
Yeah.
can really dig into. Who you share viewers with, where do your viewers come from, even from stuff outside the platform. If like somebody
Mhm.
Googles my stream, it shows me how many people found me through Google or Discord or wherever. It kind of gives you a breakdown of where people found you from, whatever.
Love it. Love it. Citizen Richard, what's good? Long time no see. Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Make sure you're following Citizen Richard. Nifwate, thank you very much for coming through here. J Raptor Soldier, hello. Welcome in. All right. Let me see. Let's work this out real quick. We're going to bring in our guy, DJ Artistic. So, DJ Artistic, welcome to Twitch University. We'll call it the university because we cover all live streaming. Let's give you a round of applause real quick.
What's good? What's the word? What's the word with you?
So LA's Finest is in the building. We're happy to have you on the show. For people who are meeting you for the first time, maybe take 30 seconds, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're originally from, and a little bit about you.
Yep, so I am DJ Artistic. I'm a DJ born and raised and based in Los Angeles, California. I went to FAMU for college. So I was a producer before I got to college. I started DJing when I was in college. And then I've been doing that since then. Do a little bit of everything from clubs to corporate events to entertainment events to travel. And as far as Twitch goes, I started streaming on Twitch a little bit over 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. That was, wow, yeah. Pandemic just takes years from you. So that was 2020, like Memorial Day 2020. I remember switching over overnight because I was on Instagram Live almost every night. And one day they took me off like 3 times within 5 minutes for copyright issues. So I said, all right, I have a Twitch account, never streamed on it, but let me just figure it out within 10 minutes. So it was a real basic setup, but I did that then. So that's just a quick little background, I should say. Quick little intro.
That was good. That was good. I'm sorry you went to FAMU. You're talking to a Howard Bison right here. I know we talked about
my apologies. My apologies to all y'all.
HBCU love.
All day, all day.
One thing, the first thing I want to ask Artistic is you have a phenomenal Twitter account. And we just appreciate the conversation and the dialogue that you have on Twitter. What are your plans for that? As we've noticed some stuff that Elon has done to kind of affect the platform. What are you thinking about staying on Twitter, going to another one? Talk to us about that first, and then we're going to talk about some music.
I would say, honestly, I mean, Elon is definitely messing things up. Like, I don't want to say too much about him, you know, as far as on Twitter, because he might end up trying to block me or ban me. You know how he might take it personal. But honestly, I'm staying on there until it just really does sink. I feel like I just don't have the personal energy and time to go to a whole different platform and rebuild there and get established there. Like, and most people probably feel that way without admitting it. They might not say it online. Like, I'm not against, like, of course I support Spill or anything else that's trying to do, you know, similar things, but I feel like it's always a nearly impossible shift, because if it does, even if a new platform did take off overnight, it won't sustain, because it has to be like, it's a years-long thing to really build up and have a true audience. Like, if everybody's just going somewhere else just to, like, you know, suffice the fact that Twitter is giving us issues, like, it's not going to really sustain to me. So yeah, for now, I'm going to just ride with it. I mean, I don't have to care about Elon and like what he's doing to be able to, you know, support myself on there. Like, Twitter has definitely done a lot for me in my career. Of course, you know, that happened before Elon even bought it. He's not the creator of it. So it's like, I'm just going to ride out with it. That's about it. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. How has your schedule on Twitch evolved? Because you do a lot of like club gigs, a lot of corporate gigs. You're very busy. You're like a very hardworking DJ. How have you been able to manage all that and like your Twitch schedule?
Yeah, like, I actually do plan to create a second show, because since we really opened up about 2 years ago, the only consistent show I've kept is Westside Wednesdays, and that's every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, playing all West Coast, new, old, whatever it is. And I do want to add at least one more night just to have maybe I'm deciding probably Tuesday. I was considering Thursday, but that might kind of have conflicts with me going out of town and things like that. So I'm thinking maybe just a Tuesday and Wednesday, just having the back-to-back night, doing maybe an R&B type stream and maybe even the hip hop stream on Tuesday, just to play something different. Because I was on before pandemic. I mean, before we opened back up, I should say, like during pandemic, I was on every Friday, every Saturday, every Wednesday, and then whenever they had verses, the verses might be on a Tuesday or Friday, whatever that was, I'd always be on for verses as well. So I know I won't have the time to be on there like I was before, because I was on here. I would get on like 6 or 7 p.m. Pacific and be on till at least like 3 a.m. every Friday and Saturday when it was lockdown. Like, during lockdown was different. I was on there just heavy, but it was just no other option. Like, it kept me alive. It helped keep everybody else alive. So it was a reason for it. But I still do enjoy having that outlet because a lot of stuff you do on Twitch, you can't do in person when it comes to music. So
No,
it is still
indeed,
necessary.
indeed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So DJ Daz and I will go back and forth. So Daz, if you got a question, just let me know because I got my long list here. So just kind of cut me off and let me know, Daz. You got anything for artistic, or you want me to keep going?
Well, first I want to say artistic thank you from a Serato forum user.
Oh wow!
for
Okay, yeah.
So for the threads that you do every year, the hardest rap R&B tracks, that keeps a thread on the Serato forum for people to just what's hot, what's popping. Just thank you for that.
Thank you for being tuned in. Doing that. Yeah, it's been like 12 years now. Crazy enough.
Yeah.
It's been
I remember
while, so.
There was one support thread that you were posting on in like 2010 or 11 that I had to go back to, and I saw your name there, and your suggestions still work now. So yeah, just thank you for being an advocate for all of us and sharing the knowledge.
Oh, of course. That's what it's about, though. That's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we talk about what made you decide to do that?
Yeah, go ahead, Daz.
What made you decide to start doing those threads? Like I said, I've been there since 2005 or 6, I believe, when the thread when it first opened up. But what made you decide to start doing those?
For me, I mean, it was the fact that for me coming from Florida, going to FAMU, and then coming back to LA, and then when I would travel, like around those years, I'll go to DC, Atlanta, New York sometimes, and you just realize it's so much different music that comes around, and even like. I was on, I think, TJ's DJs forum before I was on Serato. And I remember 2009, we were talking about Ice Cream Paint Job when it first came out. And somebody who was from like Killeen, Texas. I remember he was like, yeah, that song goes, but we got a song that's even bigger in Texas called I Look Good from Charlie Boy. And we still play that song to this day. We play both of those songs to this day. So just those type of convos and seeing stuff in different cities, it makes you realize that no matter how many clubs you go to, how many clubs you DJ in your city, you all know what's really going on nationwide and even worldwide. So it was just a good way for me to figure out what's going on in different places and for everybody else, because especially in those early 2010s, it was a case of LA was starting to take off. So we started to have our club movement. So I'm able to share the music that we had going on, and then people in different states would see that, and then vice versa. I would see what's going on in Atlanta or what was going on in Texas, Florida, DC. So I think it kind of helped out everybody. So it was just me just trying to figure out how to connect those dots.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. I remember that Ice Cream song. I just heard it just on the other day on a Peloton ride I was on, and they dropped that song out. I was like, "Ooh, okay, nice pull there."
Like, okay. It still hits. It still goes too. So yeah,
it does for sure. DJ React, welcome in. Thank you for sharing and being here. As we kind of go to fast forward to 2023, what is your opinion on kind of the current state of hip?
We talk about it all the time on Twitter, and it's one of those things that it's an extremely nuanced type discussion. It's like on one hand, it's easy to be the old head who's hating on everything new. Like once you hit your early mid 30s, it just feels like it's harder to be impressed by new music, no matter how what era it is. Because 20 years ago, it was the same thing. I was watching Drumline the other day with my dad, and it was funny seeing Dr. Lee. He was complaining about the fact that Morris Brown was playing all the hip hop. And he was like, that's not real music. You know, I came up on Earth, Wind and Fire and the Jacksons and stuff. So it's not like it's a new thing. It's always been a thing that once you get to a certain age, the new stuff don't connect with you. But on the same time, I feel like it's different because we grew up on hip hop. It's like a Dr. Lee or even my dad, they grew up on jazz and on soul, where for us growing up on hip hop, it's like we still like hip hop. So it's not that we don't like anything at all new. It's more so about what's mainstream, about what's in the club. So it's always going to be some new stuff that's dope to us. Like a lot of folks when their 30s love Griselda. They'll like what Anderson .Paak does. They'll like what even what Kendrick and J. Cole do. Sometimes what Drake does. But it's like when it comes to a lot of what we call mumble rap or like for me personally, I don't know if it's my age or me being from LA, I'm just exhausted of everything that's in that 65 BPM triplet flow. Like that triplet flow has been dominant for 10 years now. I'm just tired of it. Like, and yet whenever I say it, somebody younger will say, well, it's used different. Like Gunna don't use it the same way that Lil Uzi does, and Kendrick uses it different from them. And I'm like, it don't matter. It's still the same triplet flow, and it's still on the same speed. And for LA, at least, we just don't like that tempo that much. Like whenever you're at the club out here, we still love a No Hands or Make It Rain or a Beat King song, but most trap stuff that's at that 70 BPM, it's exhausting because we just used to that 95 BPM, like it's just our nature, our natural vibe. So even aside from that bias that I probably have, I feel like it's always going to be some new music that does work. I will say that the women are definitely bringing it the most right now. So
Mhm.
I love what a lot of the women are doing. Like they're making way better music than the men are, especially when it comes to club music. And it's still dope music out there. It's just that what's mainstream, what really does take off is just not as much as it was. And even aside from us being whatever age we are, whenever I look at old charts or whenever I look at even 4 years ago, I feel like 2019, like I haven't aged that much in 4 years, but I feel like 4 years ago, we had a lot of club stuff that we were playing that I still play that was dope. So I feel like
Yeah.
it just has been somewhat of a decline even within 4 years.
Agreed. Ames, thank you for those bits. Appreciate that 5 stack. So I'm gonna come back to this question because I'm gonna write it down because I wanna you
Yeah.
mentioned the charts, and so we want to talk
Yeah.
about like black R&B groups because that, as you all know, I'm in the middle of writing this book. I just was on
Mhm.
vacation doing a solo writing retreat, wrote about 30 chapters. So
Oh,
I want to have a
wow.
little fun with you.
Yeah.
Because the topic of the book is why there are no longer any black R&B groups in existence. I think you saw a couple posts I did on like Facebook and Twitter about this. So I've been
Yeah.
doing the research. So before I ask you for your thoughts on that, let's take it decade by decade because I know you've got deep musical knowledge. So let's start at the 60s and just tell us what are the top black groups that come to mind in the 60s. We'll go the 60s, 70s, 80s, and let's
Yeah.
just see what comes to mind in terms of your top black R&B groups for the 1960s first.
So 60s, I feel like was definitely dominated by Motown. So a lot of the groups who came out in the 60s still dominated in the 70s, but they got their start in the 60s. Some of them started in the 50s even, because even like the
Mhm.
Isleys came from the 50s, but they started to dominate even heavier in the 60s. But of course, you had Temptations, the Jackson 5, technically, they came from like that late 60s and really got even bigger in the 70s. So they're in there. I'm thinking that even like the Four Tops and all those groups probably came from the 60s and just kept on getting bigger in the 70s. But I would say it was all about that Motown group, Motown sound. The 60s to me was still probably bigger for the soloists. I think the 70s is really when groups got even bigger
Mhm.
though. But it feels
Yeah.
like the 60s was a lot of solo artists like the Sam Cooks and even the young Arethas and James Brown, everybody who was a soloist. But by the time you got to the
Yeah.
70s, that's when the groups really just took off.
Yep. So you got the Isley
Yeah,
Brothers in there, Temptation,
yeah.
Supremes had an amazing run
Supremes for
right there.
sure. Yeah,
Yes. So you covered them all, Gladys Knight and the Pips. So now, okay, now we go to the
yeah,
70s. What are the
yeah.
groups that come to mind for the 70s?
Like I'm guessing they might have started in the 60s, maybe, but like Earth, Wind and Fire to me is straight 70s.
Yes.
Like I
Straight
count them as
70s.
straight
Yes.
70s. 70s had everything from the funk groups, because even like George Clinton, of course, was in different
Hmm.
groups in the 60s, but Parliament and of course Funkadelic really started to
Yeah.
dominate in those 70s. Of course, the Whispers to me, they really had I like their 80s music even better than the 70s, but they had a lot of dope stuff from the 70s, of course.
Yeah.
You had who else was 70s? Because I feel like that's when you had the funk side, you had the soul side
Yeah.
going, even the
Got
disco side was going.
Commodores.
So Commodores, of
Commodores
course,
there.
you had
Hmm.
the emotions. The emotions had a lot of dope music.
Yep.
Like you don't
Yep.
hear them mentioned as much as the Supremes and other groups, but to me, the emotions were right there with them.
Yeah.
So
That's good. And Cool in
yeah,
the Game.
Cool
Cool
in
in
the
the Game was
Game was
really big too.
dominating. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're one of the most sampled groups in history. So Cool and Gang. So that's the 70s.
Summer Madness alone. Yeah,
Yes, that
yeah.
track right there. So 70s. Okay, now we go to the 80s. What groups
80s
come
was
to
80s, of course, because the 80s, like in my brain, I have early 80s versus late 80s. Because like
Okay.
I'm guessing Maze might have been late 70s, but they started dominating the most in the 80s. Most of their hits were the
Mhm.
80s. Like, of
Yes.
course, like even Gap Band was definitely 70s, but had a lot of hits in the 80s. So they kind of count as far as being in both. Zap was definitely strong 80s because they had
Yes.
that straight synth sound. I would say, of course, you had the New Edition type groups who came early 80s and dominated later on. Because when you get to the
Mhm.
late 80s, that's all New Jack Swing and that kind of bridge. So you had the Troop type groups. You had
Yep.
even like a Today, like who had the Him or Me back then. You had,
Mhm.
of course, Guy. Guy's one of my favorite groups. That's probably one of my top three albums of the late 80s. Is easy that Guy debut, I would say. So you
Yeah.
had them around. You had groups like Climax. You had Climax being all women playing every instrument. So you
Yeah.
had Climax dominating. Jones Girls, I'm thinking were the songs I think about them are always 80s, but they might have been around in the 70s too. But Jones
70s,
Girls definitely
80s.
had
Yeah.
a lot of 80s classics. So the 80s,
Yeah.
70s, 80s to me, just the apex of just those bands who played instruments and were groups. Like Tony was probably what, 88, 89 when they first came out.
Mhm. Yeah, they had a great run. So then there's the 90s. So you mentioned a
Yeah,
couple I have here in the 90s already, like well, guys, I put them in the 90s, although we might move them back to the 80s. Who else in
yeah.
the 90s really comes to mind that just had an amazing impact?
Yeah, 90s, of course, was like when it was just all groups. Like the only dominant bands were, of course, Mint Condition, and then Tony really dominated in the 90s. But when it came to groups, of course, you had like SWV, Escape, you had Jade, you had
Yes.
TLC, you had
Mhm.
Jodeci, you had H Town, Silk, you had later on you had Ideal. Early on you had High Five. High Five had a good run those first early 90s. You had Intro, Kenny Green,
Yeah.
of course. You had Intro who was making hits. So the
Yes.
90s had so many groups that a lot of times you can rediscover groups who may have only had one big hit, but they still had some good album cuts after that, or some
Yeah.
groups just had a moderate hit and then you didn't really hear anything else from them. A lot of them came and went, like Portrait. I was watching Video Soul from 93 last night, and Portrait had that Honey Dip and that Here We Go. And like they're talking
Yes.
on there. It's crazy because Sherry Carter was asking them, like, what are y'all doing to sustain to make sure that you're not just like a flash in the pan group? And they're like, we have 70s influences going back to Cameo. Cameo's a group from the 70s, 80s. And
Yeah.
they're saying
Mhm.
that. But crazy enough, even with them having that, having a strong foundation, being good singers, they only had that 1 year. After 93, you didn't hear nothing else from Portrait for real. So
I
a lot of
know.
groups just kind of came and went back then, but they had dope stuff. I feel like the 90s just changed every 2 years. Like 1991 was more colorful, a little bit more playful. By 92, it got a little bit darker. You had to have a hip hop image. You had to have dressed like you was from Jodeci or from Death Row or something. So even even with even with Troop first came out being Spread My Wings. By 94, they had a song called Punani. So they whole album cover was them with shades on, with the fros and like some straight gangbang attire. So it
Yeah.
definitely changed a lot back then.
Exactly. React, you mentioned In Vogue, that's good there. Of course,
And
Black
Vogue for sure, yeah.
Boys
Yeah.
to Men was classic
Boys to
there.
Men, the biggest of the 90s for sure.
Now, what happened as we get to the 2000s? I mean, I have an idea. I've wrote about it. What happened? Why did it all kind of fall off once we got to the middle of 2000? Once Beyonce left Destiny's Child, things went downhill quickly. What happened in
Yeah.
your mind?
Because even like the most dominant groups of the early 2000s all came from the 90s. Like Jagged Edge came in what, 97, maybe 96,
Mhm.
96, I think. And
Nice.
then
Mhm.
112 came in 96. So those are two of the biggest groups in the 2000s. You still had like Black came in 99. 3LW,
Mhm.
they came maybe 99, 2000-ish. Like 702, they came in 96 and they still had a couple hits around 2000-ish. But I feel like around 2000, it's probably a lot of stuff that happened behind scenes. Of course, whenever you do look at every single group, it was the same story. I mean, the fact that TLC went diamond but was bankrupt, I think
Corrupt.
that probably had a huge impact on people who might have had a group. They might have said, "Why would I even give it a group when that type of deal happens?" And I feel like the late 90s had a
Yeah.
lot of groups that didn't have as much success. The only I'll say this too: B2K came in 2000.
Yep.
B2K was
Yep.
definitely a huge group that doesn't really get talked about because they were seen as kind of a flash in the pan, trendy group. Just like Immature, like B2K got bigger than Immature technically, but people who were really around for Immature saw Immature as being like the mid 90s new edition in a way. But
Mhm.
even Immature / IMX, like it just
Yeah.
feel like nothing really sustained. So, and then when you hear about what happened with B2K, though, when you hear about those stories about Chris Stokes, that could be a big part of it too. When you take these groups who are so young and impressionable, and then you're hearing about what happens behind scenes, like that does have an impact. So you did have a couple groups like Brother toward the end of the 2000s, and even with Brother, the twins from there, Jake and Papa, they have music. I saw Papa last night at a party, so they still doing their thing as a duo. But it's like you had a group called O&E. I think Eric Bellinger came from that group. O&E, they came from LA, but a lot of I think it was just a combination of things. A lot of it was business wise, but even with technology, like it's where of course Marvin Gaye was doing his own harmonies back in the 70s, but it's like overall the 80s, 90s specialized in those 4-part, 5-part harmonies, the 70s, of course, too. So it's like, I mean, that's something that has been around forever, back to the doo-wop
Right.
days. But I feel like even with technology coming around, people who have a laptop, who had a PC in 2001 could get on the PC and just record themselves doing their own
Mhm.
harmonies and change the voice up on it. They might get on Melodyne and make each of their voices sound perfectly on pitch, then make this one sound even lower. Even worse with an AI type thing, now you could have Teddy Pendergrass harmonizing with El DeBarge and it's gonna sound perfect. So it's like I feel like
Yeah.
technology has probably kind of changed things up a lot too. So, but
Mhm.
overall, I think just about the group dynamic, about how groups just couldn't stay together because of the conflict, the money behind it, the ego. So I think a lot of singers who came up in the 90s and 2000s probably did just focus on being solo artists.
Yeah, yeah. So that's common there. You have a couple of definitely you talk about technology, streaming. That's one of the reasons. We have the money. You also have like radio going to playlisting formats. No more mom and pop record stores. Those declined by a lot. And no more. We grew up with like Ebony, Essence, Jet, Vibe. Those are all gone too. So
YBS. I have a YBS magazine in my room right now. Boyz II Men on the cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where do you see, and I'm just specifically asked about like Black R&B groups going in the future? Will they come back? Is that ship already sailed? What do you think?
I feel like it's going to be a couple more that come. I don't see it ever being as dominant as it was in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s again. We have a couple groups who are on the bubble. Like as far as bands, of course, we had internet, and even internet didn't stay together for too long. But you have like Wanye's kids. They have the group Wanye, and it's tricky because even listening to their album, like Wanye, like they have great live performances. Whenever I see them, on viral clips, it's dope. The album just didn't hit to me, and it's like, but it's because they're a victim of the time, and I feel like R&B as a whole has changed so much where people's taste in R&B is different now. So people who are younger don't have the same values as what people who are us old heads supposedly have when it comes to R&B. So listen to their album, the songs just don't connect the same way, and it's like you can tell they're trying to make it modern and trendy enough for like their age group to enjoy it, but it's like their age group don't even care because their age group who does like R&B might be into the toxic R&B. They might be into the whether it's Brent Faiyaz or the SZA talking about killing her ex and his new girl. So I feel like it's just a tricky area now where because even I think it's still a desire for it because what kind of throws me off, or not throws me off, but one thing that really shocked me was about 6 years ago. I was DJing at the BT Experience in LA for BT Awards, and I was just DJing at a booth for Snoop and Martha's thing. They had a pop up, and I'm just DJing whatever. Out of nowhere, all these kids start running and screaming, and I'm like, "Is it a fight? What's happening?" And then I'm just looking. I kind of stop DJing and look, and there's nothing but the cast of No Edition movie because No Edition movie just came out. But it was the cast of No Edition, not even the real No Edition. It was like the dude who played the king from Empire, Keith Powers, all them. Luke James, I think because they performed there. And then after that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna play No Edition. I played No Edition, and the kids who were all 12, 13, 15, 16 were singing these songs like they were brand new. And to me, it showed it's a void for R&B groups because to be that excited about a fictional, not even fictional, but about a biopic, the people who played them in the biopic, it's like, imagine how much more hype there would have been if there was a real New Edition who came in.
Yeah.
So it showed that there is still a desire for it because like, and plus within the last 10, 12 years, like R&B has kind of taken the backseat to hip hop where it hasn't been a need for singers as much you think because you have a Drake or even like the Freddie Wops who are melodic rappers, but at the same time, look at what Usher is doing right now. Usher is causing havoc with and killing people's relationships right now because it just shows that there is still a desire for R&B. It's just that whether it's the labels, whether it's just the Billboard charts don't reflect it. So it's a tricky transitional period right now.
It is. It is.
Do you think the Silk Sonic experiment?
Silk Sonic,
with Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars in them. Do you think that may kick off maybe a little bit of a renaissance and maybe some groups coming together and actual instruments and groups actually staying together, playing together, even though they're technically, Silk Sonic, I guess, is pretty much done. It was just an experiment so much, but we see something like that kicking off a new little run on the groups.
I was hoping so. It's tricky because I feel like there's different arguments that I've heard about that too. Because like even when Bruno dropped 24 Karat, like Magic, I love that album and still play it. And as far as just a lot of younger Black folks, it's kind of a mixture. Even I'm not talking about groups, but even with Beyonce Renaissance, like a lot of younger folks just are not into R&B at the same level. So it's like as big as Renaissance is. It's certain crowds. If I play Renaissance, the crowd stop dancing. It's just like, what's happening? So, as far as Silk Sonic goes, in the same way, Silk Sonic's biggest target base was not Black, and it wasn't really the young Black folks. Like young Black kids do love Leave the Door Open, but like as far as the album goes, it sold a lot. It did a good job. But I went to their concert in Vegas. It's mainly all 40 and up in there. It's mainly I was one of the youngest people in there because it's like their target base was still people who kind of grew up loving 70s music. It didn't really convert the young folks. It felt more novelty. It felt almost like when Jagged Edge had Let's Get Married. That didn't bring Run DMC back, but it did give them a spotlight, and people enjoyed the 80s for a quick second with that type of sound. So it feels like a lot of times with Bruno and them. So the second thing I would say about that with Bruno, period, it's the argument that we've made about like, and this goes into something else about just race, period. Because if you think about it, the groups that we do have are not black. K-pop is huge.
It
K-pop
is.
is
Yes.
K-pop is nothing but watered down 90s R&B to me. But it's like, but you see how much appeal it has. And some
That's
black kids
facts.
do like it. Some black kids do like it, but overall, it's like white folks. I feel like a Jonas Brothers type group can have success, and I feel like the same way that Bruno Mars can do a whole 70s album, Timberlake could probably do the same thing. But could Usher do that? If Usher does a whole album based in the 70s, 80s, his fan base might say, "Oh, he's being too retro. We want something new and modern from here," because black artists are always seen as being the type who have to progress music. We have to always make what's trendy, what's hot, what's next, while the other ethnicities get to kind of make throwback music, it feels like. And that's an argument too. So I feel like when it comes to groups, I wouldn't be shocked if it was like, even if you think about the 90s, Boyz II Men ran the first half of the 90s up to like 95, and then it was just overnight what happened. But then you had NSYNC, LFO, and Backstreet Boys taking their whole style, they whole bar for bar, as Soulja Boy said, and got way bigger than them. So that's an argument too. I feel like a lot of times I wonder, like, what is it about it? Is it the black fans, or is it just about the way it's promoted? If we had a BET, if we had a 106 in Park and those type of avenues, it would be easy. But now it's so segmented, it's hard to even get that exposure. So it's a complicated argument. I feel like it's one of those things we might just keep on really discussing to kind of get to the root of it.
Yeah, I think we do. These are conversations that need to be had. Shout out LV. Thank you for that resub. Happy 36 months. That's 3 years. You brought up Renaissance. Why does that just not hit? Because there's some thorough tracks on that album. Why does it not hit? Yeah.
But Renaissance, I mean, the thing about Renaissance is it's huge. It hits, it's very segmented. I use that word all the time because it is. I feel like this, like, so I'll just use LA for example. I can have a trendy Hollywood bottle popping club. I can have a 25 to 30-year-old hood club. I can have a 40 and up, somewhat blue collar crowd. And I can have an HBCU crowd. I can have a creative crowd. I can have an LGBT crowd. All those crowds, if it's the hood crowd, they're not really caring for Beyonce. If it's the if it's the bottle popping trendy crowd, they're not caring. Now, if it's the LGBT, they love every single song. They going for every song she's made on there, every remix. If it's an HBCU, creatives crowd, professional crowd, they love Beyonce. So it's a real segment. I have to really look at each crowd I have, and I can just, like I said it on Twitter the other day, that DJs, we can stereotype a crowd by looking. So if I look at the crowd and say they just look like they like Beyonce, they just look like they got natural hair, the way that they dress, the songs that they've responded to so far, they're gonna like Beyonce. But this crowd here just look a little bit more not as polished, not as this and that. You know, they getting too hyped to straight up ratchet. They just want to twerk all day. They ain't gonna get as hyped to it. So it's like with Renaissance as a whole, it's a huge album. You see it selling out city for city, but is there certain crowds that don't really get as hyped for it? But overall, I always try it, and I've seen the differences. Sometimes I'll play the deepest cut. I can play America Has a Problem, and sometimes they start voguing, but with the wrong crowd, they just stand there and it's just like, all right, play something else. Because I mean, think about it. Renaissance was not a regular traditional hip hop or even R&B album. It really is house. It has a little bit of some EDM. It has Afro beats all over it. So it's not a traditional R&B type album. So even the fans of SZA, like I saw on Twitter a lot of debates about how SZA actually got way more streams than Renaissance. So it shows how crazy it is. Beyonce is a way bigger artist. Her tours are probably going to sell more than SZA, but SZA had more streams, which just shows it could be an age thing too. SZA is not even that much younger. She feels like it, but she's still 30, 33, I think. But it's like she appeals more to the younger crowd than Beyonce does. So even with that, it's tricky now.
Very tricky. SZA's album has stayed in the top 5 for like months. You know, it's been up there for months.
It has.
What are the genres? Because you're dropping some great knowledge. What are the genres that you're kind of keeping an eye on that you think are going to continue to emerge and become even bigger moving forward?
Right now, so with Afro beats, for some reason, this summer it seemed to be some backlash with some folks on social media about Afro beats. A lot of them are probably the FBA, which is a whole different conversation I'm not going to get into. But beyond that, I feel like Afro beats is still getting bigger, and it's interesting because it's getting bigger, but it hasn't been as many hits that have really been like going hard in America, at least. So it's like over in Africa, along with Amapiano was really kind of taking off even more than Afro beats this year to me. But it's like last year was last, and before that you had the Joanna, you had the If, You had all those songs going back to 2017, 18, the Vito Fall. You had the Burna Boy, yeah. Like this year, like of course, Essence 2 years ago was the biggest thing in the world, but all those songs still work better than most of the brand new Afro beats if you're in America, unless you have a truly African crowd or a crowd that's really up to date on the new Amapiano and Afro beats. So it's like I still do see them getting bigger because I've compared those to what disco was, what house was, what even funk was, and the fact that I separate music based on, is it more of a sing-along response or a dancing response? A lot of hip hop and a lot of even R&B is a sing-along response. So if you play a brand new R&B song, if it's not high energy, they don't really do nothing because they can't sing it yet. They don't know it yet. The same with hip hop. If you heard Ginger Nightmares for the very first time, you didn't know the words, you was just standing there. You don't know what's about to happen. But when it comes to like old school disco and house and funk, it's like the beat would grab you before the lyrics did. So Afro beats, Amapiano is the same way. You can play a brand new song for that crowd. They don't even know it, but they just get hype hearing that beat. They hearing the breakdowns to it. They hear when the drums drop out, when the bass hits harder, and they're dancing to the beat more so than the lyrics. So I feel like because of that, it has a lot more of a lifeline, when it comes to the party scene. So with R&B, we haven't really been having as much party music with R&B lately. But as far as the other genres or subgenres, I feel like with hip hop, hip hop is in an interesting place. I feel like Jersey Club, I think, of course, like Just Wanna Rock from Uzi was probably the biggest song to come from a Jersey Club template, which is really Baltimore Club, of course. But for it to have that template, and it's a very unorthodox song. It has those long breaks. It's not really that many lyrics to it, but I feel like people are trying to take that style. Of course, the Baby has Shake Something. It's not nearly as big, but it gets a little bit of love. But I think it will be a couple more attempts at that. But I feel like as far as just the overall trap songs, some of those are still getting played. Like Gunna has a new song, Fuck You Mean, that people are rocking with. To me, it's very generic, regular trap, but it's not, I'm not the demographic for it. So as long as I know enough to play it, I'll play it for that crowd, but I don't really see that being anything that's like transitional, But
what just give us a quick 45-second thoughts, because you mentioned FBA. Just share with us what that's about, just in case we're wondering. We can always do some research in the future, but talk to us about that real quick.
So real quick, it's not really about music, but FBA stands for Foundational Black Americans. A lot of them don't believe that Black people in America came from Africa. They feel that we were the original the original Americans, and it sounds dumb on surface, but it's people who really are. So all that to say that they're anti-African almost anything. So they don't like Afro beats at all. So I was at Essence Festival the whole weekend. Sunday they had Tim's and WizKid perform, and I'll say the crowd was kind of dead, especially for WizKid's set. But it was but it was because it was an older crowd. It's more of a 40 and up crowd. A lot of them came from the South. That's not really the Afro beats target demographic, even for Black Americans. But of course, the FBAs found that, and they had a field day. Like, see, this is proof that Afro beats does not work in America. Americans don't care for that Lion King jungle music, and they're just using that against it. So it's a little clash with that. Like a lot of them complain about Afro beats and hate Afro beats, and they're just like overly pro Black American. But it's comical to me, though. I'll say that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Pastor. I hope it's Lick or Lik. I hope I said that right. Welcome in. Give us some tips. You do a phenomenal job of digging for music. What's like your process, or some tips? There's some DJs in the chat that might be a little newer, that are looking to learn and improve. What are some tips, and how do you dig for new music?
As far as for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. As far as digging for new music, it's so many avenues now, almost too many, but I do everything from, of course, the Serato thread. I'm always on the Serato thread, and it's not as active as it used to be, which could show a decline in music. But beyond that, I'm always on Twitter asking about what's the biggest songs in this city, or, in certain lanes. And then just really watching social media, going to TikTok, seeing what's on people's reels, because people always use music in their reels. And then I use Tidal primarily. So on there, they have track radio. So you can go to whatever song it is, and it's going to find songs that are similar from similar artists, similar era. And then just whatever the playlist is on there. Also from SoundCloud, when it comes to finding those edits and that kind of more eclectic music, of course, like Selection and those type of platforms still do play a lot of music that is kind of like that subculture in a way. That's that Kaytranada type sound, that Smino, and a lot of those, like, I won't even say lesser known. It's just that it's really a niche type of audience now that goes for that. But even that sound, I feel like the Kaytranada sound is something that didn't take off the way that I thought it would take off mainstream wise. Like, people who love Kaytranada love his sound, but there's still people who don't know who he is, which is crazy to me. But,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wild. Pastor Leak,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that with me. Who are some artists that you kind of keep an eye on that could be new and upcoming that we should also pay attention to?
As far as new artists, I would say at this point he's been around for about 4 years, but Devin Morrison is still one of those who's on that bubble. Like
Mhm.
people at least know Yams for the most part, but a lot of them know that from Fetty Wap more so than Devin and from Masego. But Devin Morrison is
Mhm.
definitely my favorite, like R&B artist, producer, especially because he has that strong gospel jazz type influence to his music. Beyond him, Audio Aces has some dope music. She has a lot of dope music. She's kind of a soulful R&B artist. Within hip hop, who is new? Because a lot of folks have kind of blown up the last couple of years, like the Larry June. He's been around for a minute, but he's just
Right.
now starting to like take off. Trying to think of. I feel like if I go to my laptop, I'm gonna see 10 of them, but it's definitely that's two of the main ones who I've been checking out a lot recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Daz, any final questions before we let artistic kind of go?
Yeah. What do you listen to in your downtime when you're just listening to music and not preparing
Yeah.
for a set, not not thinking about club, just when you're sitting down and in your downtime? What is your music repertoire like?
Definitely nothing I play in the club, so it's never gonna be the hype turn up twerk type music, but it's a mixture. Like a lot of times it's whatever's on Twitch, whoever's streaming on Twitch, because they always playing different music. So I can hear different edits, they're always playing something that's not the standard. So beyond that, it could be sometimes 80s, 90s jazz, like it could be Terrence Martin type music, Robert Glasper type music. It can be a lot of deeper cuts from the 90s. It might be like a lot of times what I do is whenever I'm going through like 90s artists and songs, I try to figure out like those deep album cuts. Like even like for High Five, like I know their main songs, but then I didn't know that Tony Thompson had a solo album until probably 7-8 years ago. So when I found that, I was like, oh, his solo album's actually solid. Like it wasn't as great as like a D'Angelo debut, but it definitely had some dope stuff on it. So I like digging through that type stuff. I'm still West Coast, so a lot of the West Coast stuff I'm still playing. A DJ Quick Rhythmalism type album or a Dog Pound Dog Food, a lot of stuff from that era too.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
tell the people the best way to kind of stay in touch with you, support you, follow you, and kind of catch you streaming and playing in person.
Definitely follow me everywhere. I'm on Twitter, Instagram under DJRTISTIC. I'm here on Twitch every Wednesday, 6 p.m. for Westside Wednesdays. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm planning to start up a R&B show probably on Tuesdays. And I plan to do that maybe in about 2 to 3 weeks. So I want to get that all
Awesome.
lined up. So then in person, I'm based in LA. So LA every single Monday at the Dime. I do Paris, Tokyo, Beverly Hills. I do Elevate downtown LA. I do Revel Hollywood, but every week is different. And I travel a lot too, so I'll be at some of the homecomings this year. Of course, I'm always at FAMU's homecoming. I might be in Atlanta next month. We'll see about that if that pops up. And I always post everywhere I'm gonna be at coming up. So mainly on Instagram, you can see wherever I have coming up. So that's
Yeah.
the main
Yeah.
avenues right there.
Make sure you also follow him on Twitter, even if with Twitter stuff, like because he got great conversation there. Great, he shares charts, like just good stuff there. So follow him on Twitter, and then I also got to compliment you because once or twice a year, you will share like a zip file of like
Oh yeah,
bangers from the West Coast, like, and it's
yeah,
just thorough. So thank you for that. Just
of
get the
course.
good stuff. Artists got it going on right here.
Man, appreciate you for that. Of course, just trying to keep that culture elevating and pushing forward. So no, thank you
Awesome.
for checking that out too. Thank you for having me, of course.
Of course, we're gonna have you back again
Yeah.
because there are some subjects,
Okay.
there's some things you mentioned that we need to kind of dig into, but time permitting, we'll do that.
Yeah, of course.
But
Yeah.
appreciate you, everything you do. Thank you for also sharing just the good information, giving me some good thoughts on kind of your input on the state of Black R&B groups. Just thank you. Delta Honey, hello there. Mish, we see you. So we'll give you a round of applause. And if you're in LA tonight, go check them out at the Dime, 10
That's where it's
p.m.
at. Appreciate you
Yes.
already know. Appreciate that. DJ React
Yes.
in the building was good with you.
Yes.
Representing. So appreciate
Yes.
y'all for
Thank
having
you.
me though. Of course.
Awesome. Thank you for those bits. React will be in touch, and just thanks again.
For sure. Y'all have a good one though.
All right. So we'll go back here.
Thank
Now we
you.
got this. Let me go check out and make sure. But so while I'm doing a little bit of the work here, I'm gonna get LV in here. just share your thoughts on that because he dropped some gems here. I was taking some notes and everything. What were your thoughts on all that? Like, share with us what you think, right quick.
Oh, listening to how he broke down the groups between the different generations from the 60s and 70s, 80s and 90s. Um, I heard a bunch of groups that he had mentioned, especially once we got to the 90s, that I hadn't
Hmm.
thought of in a long, long time. That I got in record pools. You get it as a DJ in a actual record pool. You get a lot of these tracks from um, groups that eh, here in the Northeast didn't do
Hmm.
squat. But listening to you guys, they blew up, must have blown up everywhere else except where we
Right.
are. And that kind of still sits kind of true today with a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
Makes me want to go back and research some more of these records that I still have sitting there that have unopened cellophane on them.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
and,
Yeah. Yeah. That was. What else? Keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going.
no, no,
That was
it's
it.
just always interesting to me listening to how someone else feels about the music scene, especially when it comes to one of your favorite topics, that what happened to
Yeah.
the R&B groups, what happened to the
Hmm.
R&B groups, and he added even a little more perspective on there that I thought was
Yeah. Yeah.
really interesting.
It
Um,
was good. It was
you know,
great.
uh,
So thanks again to Artistic for that. React, thank you for those bits. Now coming to the virtual stage, we have DJ LV. Now I
Can
see
you
you
hear me?
there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can
Okay,
hear you well. All right.
perfect.
So welcome LV to the university. We give you a round of applause.
I was like, what is this platform on this ping platform I'm on now? It's like, I'll leave it up to Amani to come up with some new ish.
It's good. Trust me, it works
It,
well.
it
Nice, clear
does.
picture. It's good. I love it. So LV's in the building. First of all, 3 years streaming on Twitch.
3
Congratulations.
years on this bish.
3 years. 3 years. What do
Lord.
you remember your first stream? What comes to mind when you think about 3 years?
3 years ago we was all locked up. Like
Yes, we were.
everybody was scared to go outside. Everybody was scared to sneeze. Everybody was scared to cough. And people thought it'd be, just kind of fly by, and it didn't. And
Yeah.
but what it did, it almost reinvented the DJ from my perspective. It shined a light on the DJ to kind of let people know, like, this is where it started. It's always the DJ that broke records and that controlled the party, and somewhere in that shift, it turned into all being about the promoter, and who was throwing the party and things like that. But what people were reminded of is, like, this music thing is powerful, and it totally showed us how, during the time of um, dire straits, so to speak, that um, you can find some type of peace and some type of healing in this thing we call music. So that's
Yeah.
3 years ago.
And then kind of Ames, thank you very much for those bits. As we look forward to now, how, because you still stream what, 4 or 5 days a week, right? At least
Yeah, 5 days a week still.
5 days a
It
week.
used to
How
be
do you,
7. It used to be 7. It
it
literally,
did.
it did. And
How do
twice
you,
on Wednesdays.
I remember,
I was
yes,
like, man,
LV
this
After
was
Dark,
not right. Slow burn.
slow burn. How can you still manage? Because for me, I can get 1 or 2 days because I like just that's all I can manage. How are you able to still manage 5 days a week?
Because at this point, it's the consistency, and it's what people look forward to. 10:30 Monday through Friday, just kind of how it started, and that's the time that people look for me to come on, and that's the brand you build. It's like a radio station.
Hmm.
If you got a morning show, the morning show comes on from 6 to 10. So
Right.
our Beats and Breakfast came on at 10:30. So, like, where do you change that? Like, how do you change that? How do you make that something different, that
Hmm.
that you've built this community of amazing people for so long? Say, you know what, we're not gonna do Beats and Breakfast no more, man. I get killed probably.
Yeah, it'd be a little tough. Ames, thank you for those bits again. Davina, what's up? Miss KB, hello, I saw you there. When we think about the 3 years, and then Daz, I'll let you ask your next question. What are some of maybe the biggest lessons you've learned through 3 years of streaming?
Probably lesson number one is that as much as people said that we as DJs saved their life, I think the people saved our lives. I felt like that because like now we weren't handcuffed. We were able to just play freely. We were able to be in our own vibe, in our own world, and not feel like we just had to play what was on the radio. And it was like breaking records all over again, like playing stuff, and people like, yo, what is that? And it could be 10 years old, 5 years old. It didn't matter if people never heard it or you never got a chance to play it, and now you play it on this platform. It was like, man, well, what is this? And who is this? And at some point, everybody's Shazam was on. And so like now you're exposing people to so many different music and DJs too. DJs like, damn, what's that? What's that? And or hey, Amani, I need you to send me that. Daz,
Right.
I normally don't do this, but can you just send me that whole crate you just played?
Okay. So that's a lesson. Keep going.
Another lesson is really like humility and gratitude. Like be grateful for the platform that you have, where you're able to play this music and bless these people, and for people to say or think enough of you to say, you know what, I'm going to invest in you and I want to support you financially, as well as like being on the stream. So like being grateful for opportunity to DJ in front of people and not even see them and still build a connection. And then when you finally meet these people, you're like, damn, I feel like I've known you, forever.
Right.
So.
Yeah, agreed. DJ Mad says he is still waiting on your crate. So shout out DJ Mad. It's early in the morning where you are. It's like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning where you are. So thank you for tuning in very early.
I got you, man. I got you, bro.
He got you. Daz, go ahead with your first question. I know you got a bunch here too.
Now, was there a point where you went from, okay, this is kind of cool to, this is something I need to do. This is a part of who I am, what I'm doing right now.
It's definitely a part of, because when things start opening up, like I would feel some kind of way just to stop and be like, appreciate y'all, thank y'all, but everything is open up, so we're not gonna stream here anymore. We're not gonna. There's gonna be no more beats and break. Hey, I might do a pop up here and there. Like I would feel some kind of way, like because of the consistency, and it started before Twitch. That's the thing. Like it was Facebook, and then it was Facebook and Instagram, and then it was, no more Facebook. Then it was just Instagram. And it was Instagram and Twitch, and then there was no more Instagram because Twitch was the VIP. If you remember, I'm like, come up to the VIP where the picture is crispy over there, and then people were scared, and then they go over there and be like, oh shoot, you can see the whole background instead of this, little landscape picture, or not landscape, portrait type picture of me DJing like right up here in my face. Now you got this whole wall with these records, and you got green screens, and you got all this other stuff to be creative. So it turned into like a production, which was another lesson you learned. You learned that technology, there's power in technology, and it doesn't have to be super expensive. You just have to be intentional in what you're doing to put across a very good product.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I'm Sir Steve. It says the music don't get cut off. What's up, Lawanda? I see you. Okay, so that's why you're here. Consistency, the lessons learned. Did you have a follow-up, Daz, or no? Okay, so What inspired you to start your Ray Train Reboom? Remixes, edits,
Oh,
blends,
that
or
Ray
not?
Train. Oh, I was like, what?
That's
Um,
very
honestly, because like you'll just be in your set, and I've seen it. I've seen the the DJ Holy Spirit hit people, during a blend, or some type of on the fly remix, and be like, yo. And I've people have seen me totally zone out and just be gone. There was one point where I was gone for like 45 minutes, like literally. And then I was like, oh, my bad, y'all. But when you're in that zone and then you go back and you listen to it, it's like, where was I? What was I thinking doing all of this stuff? And I don't even know if I could recreate that, but there's so many other like edits that are edits and remixes and blends that are done outside of that. It's like, what if we just did something where it was nothing but remixes, edits, and blends, and kind of make it a Ray Train, and we'll do it once a month. And so, we started off doing it just once a month on a Saturday, and it was like from 10 to 5. That was the initial, and I think it was called edits, remixes, edits, remix, blends, or something. It
Mhm.
wasn't Rebomb. It was something else. Um, but I remember it. It was on. We used to just do it on Saturday once a month, and
Mhm.
then it was like, this is pretty cool, and it's different than anything else that's out, because like you can, and it's no disrespect to anybody else's Ray Train, but like for the most part, you can just play anything on that. You can play, any song, but like for everything to be a remix, a edit, or a blend, like there has to be preparation. And you just can't walk in and be like, oh, I'm just gonna be on the fly. Unless you're Droopy. Like Droopy can get away with it, you know.
The high
Um,
end appliance.
right, right. But like there's preparation, and it's it raises the level of what's to come, or what the DJs are bringing the people, and that's what I want. So I tell them, don't come here trying something. Don't just come here and make this like your experimental thing, like with no plan. Like come to chop heads. Come to make you forget about the person who just DJ before you. You
Mhm.
know, that's always the goal. But that's a good thing, because all you're doing is just raising the level every time from each DJ. So um but that's just kind of where it come from. And then you listen to people and you're like, damn, where's that edit? And you try to Shazam it and you can't find it. And then like I got to the point where I'm like, I don't even Shazam stuff anymore. Probably like after the first 6 months, I'm like, I'm not Shazamming, because a lot of times it's like, because they have it, I don't want it. I want something that somebody doesn't have. Like I've always
Mm.
been that guy where like, Dad's got it. Yeah, I don't want it. And if I do get it, I'm gonna play it somewhere where he'll never hear me play it.
Now, what
That's
LV
hilarious.
did, low key, what LV did is there's a lot of the blends and edits that we would dig and dig and dig for. He took the creators of a lot of those edits and brought them right into Rebomb. It's like, now what you gonna do? Now that we got Easy P here, what you gonna do? Now that we got so and so, what you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? And I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. DJ TNT Auto Detailing, what's up? We had a question from DJ Ron Love. What's up? He asked, how can other DJs be down with Rebound?
Talk to Holly. Got a waiting list. Talk to Holly, and well, Holly will say, "Hey, such and such wants to get on," and then like we'll come listen to you. We'll come to your stream and just listen to you DJ, and see if it's a fit. Um, but here's the thing: like if we put you on, don't expect like you're about to get the prime slot. You're either gonna come in early in the morning, like at 9 o'clock, or you'll be the last one on, because again, it's you have to work your way through these progressions to get these certain slots. And it's not about numbers. It's not always about numbers, but it is about, are you a good person, number one? Are you a good DJ, number two? And is it a fit? You know, sometimes it's not a fit across. You might be a good person, but your mixes sound like two shoes in a dryer. It's not going to work. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, good point there. C Sharp, what's up, C Sharp? DJ Purpose, what's up? Okay, another question. I'm curious your thoughts. We hear a lot of kind of talk and buzz about Kick, the other platform.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that platform? Why have you stayed here? Just share your kind of perspective.
So I went over there to Kick, and I just put my name up, just signed up, just in case. But not with any intentions on leaving, just because, you know, if something ever goes down, you got a backup platform, so to speak.
Mhm.
But when I think about Kick, and there's no disrespect to Kick, it's a carbon copy of what we have here. And a lot of people are jumping over there because they're like, they're giving you 70% or they're giving you 90%, whatever. Well, here's the thing. You still have to build your community. You still have to build a following. And so 70% of 3 people compared to, you know, 50%, just say all your subs are 50% and you don't have any tier 2s or tier 3s of, say, 1,000 people, like, just financially and mathematically, it don't make sense. But here's the thing, like here on Twitch, we're still like, there's 29 million accounts on Twitch, and music is 9% of that.
It's very small. Yes.
Very,
it's very small.
maybe 9% of that. And of the 9%, DJs are only 2% of that, you know, and we're just rounding, you know, these are just general numbers. Look at the growth, like, and it's backed by Amazon. So, like, to me, I'm like, money's going to be there if you're looking at it from a financial perspective. But to me, it's not worth it to leave Twitch and go to Kick to try to rebuild, especially when I don't have a reason to. Like, if it was something going on, like the reason why we left Instagram and Facebook is because we were getting cut off. And a lot of us came here just so we wouldn't get cut off. And then it just so happened, hey, you can get paid. Oh, okay. So, like, if they take some away here at Twitch where we start getting cut off, or like the percentages dip down super low and you feel like it's not worth it, then you say, well, let me try another platform. Because here's the thing also, Mixcloud did the same thing, you know, and nobody ran over to Mixcloud. So
yeah. Okay. Good thoughts there. What's coming next for the Beats and Breakfast crew? What's coming next in terms of your stream? Maybe an additional raid train? Talk to us about the future.
The future is right now. It's like, hell, I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do in 15 minutes. You talking about what's the future of Beats and Breakfast? Hell, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna eat after this after this interview. But what I have thought about Beats and Breakfast Live, and I've also thought about Rebomb Live. And I'm trying to think, if I did it, there's 2 places where I would do it. One is in this like small amphitheater next to this fountain right over where I have the Cool Dash Rock Soapbox Derby. There's an amphitheater down there, and there's grass, and it's levels, it stacks up. I'm like, oh, this would be dope. This would be dope. But I'd probably do Rebomb there. For like Beats and Breakfast, if I did like a Beats and Breakfast Live, I would go to one of 2 places, but I would set it up where there is actual breakfast, where people can come and get breakfast and enjoy like the music with different DJs and things like that. With the Rebomb Live, it would be more like I said, outside semi festival thing with like one food vendor to start off
Mhm.
with, and just kind of see where it would go from that. Here from Beats and Breakfast, from that perspective, every now and then I think about putting up the green screen again. Just because I have a bunch of ideas. I always have ideas in my mind. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. But then I want to take it down too. And I'm like, so so that's why I am with the future of Beats and Breakfast. I know there's a new program that they're offering partners that I vaguely know about. It's like Partners Plus. So I
Yeah.
may do some research into figuring out if that's something that we want to go after. And I say we because it's a community thing, and there's no way I can do it by myself. So
Mhm.
um, that's about it, really.
That's plenty. That's plenty. Going back to raid trains, what different raid trains are you a part of, and what are some that you might suggest we want to follow that we might not know about?
Ones I'm a part of course, my own Remix Edits and Blends, Oh My, which has now been deemed Rebomb. Soul Train with DJ Volatile. I've been on that since day one. Um, David C. Dennis's Back to Back. Back in the days with DJ Mad, and once a month I do Soul to Soul with DJ Drake.
Got it.
Now, as
Any
far as ones
others?
I would say to look out for, um, I don't know. It seems like there's so many,
Mhm.
Oh, and I do Hippo May every now and then with Prodigy. I don't want to leave the tiny man out. So that you can blame Holly for that. And she said the TM stands for tiny man. So I know there's a Five Guys 45,
Mhm.
record raid. That's I know some dope guys that's on that, but I don't have 45s, and I'm not interested in filling up my house with records again or
Right.
45s. Like that's, I still got thousands upon thousands of records in storage, like
Mhm.
thousands without the H, just thousands of records. So, and somebody has asked me before, hey, you want to be on an all vinyl raid train? And I'm like, I would, but I don't have no vinyl. Not that I want to pull out. So,
Right. Okay. I want to show you this clip here, and then I want to talk to you about this here. So let's watch all together.
talk about it. Oh, I thought you said
No. Now it's over. It's over.
Oh.
So I was going to ask you the former question.
Oh, okay.
What was your? Because it's turning. Is it turning 10 or 9 or 10 years old this year?
So because of the pandemic, we had to miss 2.
Yeah.
So this is 9. But
Okay.
Cool Dad's Rock is 10 years old.
So what is the inspiration behind Cool Dad's Rock
Okay.
and the Soapbox Races? Talk to us about how that came to be, and to have a nonprofit or anything go on for 10, really 12 years. This was 2 years you couldn't do it, but you still kept things going. What was the motivation, inspiration behind that?
So Cool Dads Rock is a nonprofit organization where we focus on building better relationships with fathers and their kids. I always say it's where you know uncool dads are cool and cool dads are even cooler. But the main focus really is building better relationships with fathers and their kids. And when you build better relationships, like you build better communities, um, things like that. And of course, the premise behind that was the relationship that I have with my son. And for those that know, like since birth, he's been on social media. And it's like when Facebook first came out, and I was like, I don't know about this Facebook thing. But, so I wouldn't put his name out there. I just called him AB. And so that's like where the whole AB came from. But people saw us everywhere, whether we were at the studio or we were at the park. Those were the two main places. I could put me and ABR, and people would be like at the park or at the studio, and either one was probably right. But the name Cool Dads Rock came from a buddy of mine. Well, not from him, but I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was going through a custody battle trying to get his daughter. But same type of thing, always posting about him and his daughter here and there, everywhere, whatever. And I was like, hey, man, keep being that bright light to your daughter. Hashtag Cool Dads Rock. And didn't think nothing else about it. And then just kind of left it alone. And then like throughout the day, it was just kind of like at me, like, yeah, Cool Dads Rock. And I was like, okay. I know some other dads that may not post as much, but they're, good dads. And so I just made up a page. And I would put my friends and, their kids on it and tag them on it. And then their people would see it and they'd be like, yeah, Amani, you're a great dad. And Daz, you're a great dad. And it just kind of started to, snowball. After that, how the soapbox derby race came about. Like I wanted to do a golf tournament. Like I wanted to do an event. So I wanted to do a golf tournament at first because I love golf. And then I was like, it's not really kid friendly. And it just so happened the Red Bull soapbox derby race was here in Atlanta. And so I took my son, and I'm trying to figure out, man, this is amazing. How can I get in this thing? Because I'm a big kid, and they got the whole Piedmont over by Piedmont Park shut down, street shut down. And I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, man, how can I do something like this but make it more family friendly? Because you have to be 18 to be in theirs. So I was like, let's do it from like age 4 all the way up to adult. And so that's how the beginning concepts of it started. And to watch it go from where it was to where it is now is pretty freaking amazing. So I'm excited about it happening again, because again, last year was the first year since the pandemic. And so now it's like we're back in full swing. So definitely super, super excited about it.
And give us some details about what will happen this year. Didn't the mayor of Atlanta or something declare the day Cool Dads Rock Day too?
Yeah, I have two proclamations. And what's funny is they're 2 days apart. So I think one is it's right there on the wall. One is August 5th, either August 3rd, and the other one is August 5th, as Cool Dads Rock Day in Atlanta. So I got 2. So if you miss one, guess what? Get a couple of days to get your ish together for the next one. So nice. Yeah, the mayor, city council, and it's cool because the mayor now, Andre Dickens, he was just a councilman back when we first started, and he was like, man, LV, and I've known him for umpteen years, which is pretty dope. We I used to do parties at his house, his family, whatever. And he was like, man, LV, we can do this and we can do this for the city, and we can work together. And he came to our first gala, and then see him out, and then to see him as mayor now is super cool. And so like now my goal is to get him in a soapbox derby car and like be the first person to go down to start the race. What do you
Mhm.
call it? That marshal or grand
Yeah.
marshal. Yeah.
Grand Marshal. Nice. Daz, what you got for us?
What's the best way if somebody wanted to help out or contribute without being able to be there in person? What's the best way somebody can help out with any of the Cool Dads Rock stuff with the
Yeah, you
derby
can
or
go to
whatever?
cooldadsrock.com for donations. Cash App is $ Cool Dads Rock. If we're talking about monetary stuff, if you want to send stuff, again, everything is really on the website. Go to cooldadsrock.com or just send it to Holly because Holly will make sure that that it's
What's
taken
Holly
care of.
work? Oh, he's got to go to work. She's gonna be like, "Thank you, Elfie." That's hilarious. We're just waiting for her to chat there. We're looking. We're
Yeah.
looking.
We're waiting. We're waiting. Holly handles all the volunteers. So
She handles the volunteers. She handles the
does
raid
volunteer.
train.
Yeah, she does the rain train. Yep. She handles the checks mix.
Oh yes, that's dangerous.
That
Yes,
is. That's pure crack in the bag.
it is. So there's still. She said,
Damn.
I can see it.
Man.
That with a straight face. Yes, we love Holly. She's OG. People, new on the platform, discover you, look up to you greatly, but there's still people out there that are tentative or scared, or maybe they got in a little bit plateau in terms of streaming. I always love to hear like your advice to them, and then also how you still maintain. It doesn't matter whether you're streaming or playing for 3 or 3,000 people. So talk to us about that philosophy and then advice you give to people who might be scared to start streaming or hit a plateau.
Hitting a plateau is tricky because numbers that were a year ago or 2 years ago aren't the same numbers are now. And so like you get caught up in the comparison game, like, how come, me and, Daz used to have the same numbers. And like now, why is he blowing me out the water? What am I not doing? Then you start questioning yourself, like, what am I not doing? What am I doing different? Where am I missing the mark? When really you just have to understand what's going on with the times. Like it's kind of what it is. You have to figure out if it's worth it. And if it's worth it, then you keep plugging away and you stay consistent, because there's going to be days when you have 38 people and there's going to be days when you have 238 people, and it's all those that are in between that make you look back and make you realize, am I doing it for the numbers? Am I doing it for the money? Or am I doing it because I love what I do? And so it has to be I'm sure it's a little mix of all of that. But I think the greater thing is that you're doing it because this is what you love to do. And again, to be on this platform and to play openly and freely is, I think it's taken for granted for a lot of people and a lot of DJs. And they don't realize it until they go back out and they have to go into a club and they're like, oh, damn, I got to play the same 8 songs again. And so like, even me, like I'm very selective with my outside gigs because like I don't ever have to go into the club again. Like never, ever. Would I? It depends. But do I want to? Not necessarily. Just because again, you're kind of handcuffed. And then you get the people like Holly who put up the Bad Bunny on their phone and like, play Bad Bunny.
After you just played 2 Bad Bunny songs.
Play Bad Bunny. I'm like, yeah, you can watch the Pepsi commercial and listen to Bad Bunny.
Yeah. So so true, so true. And yeah, and that because from the beginning, you were like, it doesn't matter whether there's 3 people here or 300 or
Yeah,
3,000.
5,000, we go hard. We do it the
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
Mhm.
You just
Yeah.
never know. You never know who's listening. You never know
Mm.
who you might affect. You never know who might just needed to hear you in that moment. And he'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna come back just cause, you know, he was nice to me, or he was picking on me, or he sung the, in your feeling song, and he, whatever. You just
Right.
never know. You never know.
Yeah.
But you have to give those same 5 people the attention that you would if it was 5,000.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Das, final question for LV.
How has Twitch challenged or changed the way that you DJ, if it has at all?
Oh, it does. It does. Because every day, like I'm like, what am I gonna play? For like at one point, like you go through different phases. And Amanda, you can attest to this because like you've kind of followed me since Instagram, where we would do themes, and we would do the TV themes, and then we would do you know New Edition Day, and then we would do such and such day. Like you have, and then after a while, you're like, I feel like I'm running out of stuff to do, and so like now you have to figure out how to be creative and how to still keep everybody engaged with playing the music that you have, but not really repeating a lot of the stuff that you've done, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Every now and then you go back and you do some stuff, and it's good because engagement drives your channel and it drives the chat. There's some times where we just do the lurkers lounge where it's just music, and then there's times where you're like, if you know Theo and Rudy and all the other Huxtable kids was on a road trip. This is their soundtrack. Who played what? And then you play a song and you got to guess who played what.
Yeah.
Like that. That's fun and it's interactive and it keeps people engaged and it makes people want to come back. Like, what is he gonna do next time? So you just again, it's the creative piece, and for me, like that drives me. Like that's what I need. Creativity drives my everyday. So I'm like, even with today with back to back raid train for David C. Dennis. In my mind, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play an artist and then I'm gonna play another artist back to back. Whoever that was. So if it was Luther, I was gonna play another Luther. Then I was going to somebody else and then play that same artist. But then it turned into I'm gonna play a song and the word in the song was up. So now I'm gonna play another song with the word up in it, and then it turned into that to the whole stream. So like that creative, and it made it fun, and people were like, well, then what's next? What is he gonna play next? Or what is he gonna do? And it was like so random, but so again fun to where like I'm over here sweating, and then in my group chat with my moms, I was like, well, that was fun, and I was like, good job, good job. When they hit you with the good job, as opposed to bruh. When Holly hit you with the bruh, you messed up somewhere.
Yeah. You made some errors in judgment.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's the creative piece and not repeating, so because there's so much music and there's so many crates that we haven't touched. And I don't know about you, like there's stuff where I'm like, I'm not gonna do this, and then I'm like, why not? Play the crate, play what's in there. Like what's gonna happen? What's the worst that could happen? And we always say, over at Beats and Breakfast, we just do it different over here because different is dope. And so when you expect different, then you've set up a different expectation level from anywhere else you go. And again, it's not a disrespect to anybody else's. That's just playing just the hits or whatever, but you play some obscure stuff, you're like, yo, what is that? Especially if it's cool. And I think that's why a lot of these other DJs are successful. Like you take like Selector, where he was like, I don't know about jazz, but I'm gonna try it, and then it turned into a big hit. You know what I'm saying?
It
So
did.
like now he's like, shoot, this is about breakfast jammies, jazz, hip hop, whatever. So he's like, man, and then somebody like a White Gold who will 80s your ass to death. Like White Gold played some 80s stuff where I'm like, damn, where do you even find that? Where do you even get that from?
Right.
But again, it's something that works and something that you can do. And there's so much 80s music. I mean, hell, as we did, how many days of 80s, Holly? 14, 18 days of 80s, something like it was dumb. But like stuff like that it keeps you going, it keeps you pushing, it keeps you exploring different options on how you can really stay relevant and just keep people's attention in these Twitch streets.
Yeah, preach. Let's see here. So we have Marcia that's with us, Ben Select Records, Cardio Cool. Who else did I see in there? Candy Lady, I think I saw. Who else did I miss?
Ben Select is a quiet killer, just FYI. Ben Select is a quiet killer. I used to say that about Daz, but like everybody knows Daz now. But Ben Select,
it's out now.
Quiet killer.
Yeah, and then White Gold was here too. I think he might still be here. So thank you, White Gold, for stopping by. Before we ask the final question, let the peeps know when you stream, the time zones, and when the next rebomb is.
Monday through Friday, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 Pacific. Appreciate that, Kicker. I would go through all the time zone. I haven't done the whole time zone. Like I started to get away from it because I thought it was like people got tired of it until I did it again. They were like, "Holy sugar mama!" And I was like, "Well, damn, okay." Might have to like keep it on deck every now and then. But for us here in the U.S., Monday through Friday, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 Pacific, and 9:30 Central. The next remix, edits, and blends, oh my, is not this Thursday, but next Thursday. So we do it every other week, but then we rotate between Mondays and Thursdays. So we just did Monday last week, so we'll skip this week. So next week it'll be Thursday, and then we'll skip that week, and the next one will be Monday. So because again, we just do it different.
Different. I would like to invite you to be on Twitch, The Music Maven. It's Mondays. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern. You've seen the little clips of it. We are looking for more contestants for our July program. It's going to be the 24th or 31st. I got to figure that out.
Yeah, I think I watched it and I was like, I would suck at this game. Like I do it, but I was like, I would suck at this game. But like the competitiveness in me is like, shoot, I ain't no punk bitch. Let's go.
Okay. So we're going to reserve you for the July edition. And we're going to get a couple more people to join us. I got to figure out the dates. But that, before I let you answer final question, I got to shout out CC's here, my mods, Misty Christie, Holly, Songbird, Alex, and in London, Michelle. That's the mods crew. While I look for a raid for us, anything else you wanted to share or discuss before we keep going and get to dinner?
You know what? Like how you really made your mark on this Twitch thing. And I know you're like, I kind of got the idea from you with I know when you were talking about Survivor back in the day, or you were just talking about the interactive piece, and like you had people jumping off buildings, ready to kill themselves because somebody's song got cut.
That was the brackets.
Man, the brackets, crazy. But the way you've taught people over the last 3 years and given a place for people to come learn about Twitch, it's still people that's new. And I'm like, you want to know? Go to Amani. Go holler at Hamani. They're like, how do you spell that? I was like, Amani. They're like, but you said Hamani. I was like, yeah, that's how you pronounce it, Hamani. but it's spelled Amani. Just no matter what, just go over and see Amani Experience, and he will gladly teach you everything that you need to know. Or you can ask Holly, but first go to Amani. Yeah. And I'll say this story, and I'll always say it when I first came on here, and Amani was like, "Hey, let me know if you need any help with anything. I'm here to help." And I was like, "What do you want? Like, what nobody is that helpful. What do you want?" No, I don't want anything. I just wanted, we're all learning this thing together, and I've done some research. I was like, "Yeah, but for real, like, what do you want? What do you want?" And still to this day, you ain't want nothing. So
Nope.
for you to be selfless and to be helpful to all of those that want help is an amazing thing. So shout out to you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're just here to keep it going. So thank you for that. It means a lot.
I got a question.
Yeah.
How come you didn't go to Kick?
Basically, very similar to you, just the time and energy it took for me to build up my community here on Twitch. I mean, that was a lot of work. And, just with how Kick is in terms of who funds it, kind of the racism and stuff that's going on there, it's not really a safe place. And I just don't have the time to invest in building again. I'm trying to stick to 2 days a week here. I don't have time to do another streams on Kick. And it's good to know about it, but I'm good here, because it's not really about the money and everything. And, let's just watch and see what happens, but I'm good.
Yeah. Then you're gonna have to do the Twitch and the Kick Awards, and you're talking about hell in a handbasket.
So we just stick to the Twitch Awards, which, by the way, I'm putting up a post into this week. Nominations are starting in August, so get ready. We'll see what new categories.
That's like tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It wore me out last year. It was rough, but we're gonna come back strong this year. Nominations start in August, so it's get ready to start.
Hopefully you got new help too.
Yes, we got some help. Flowtron's gonna be really big.
Sorry.
Yes, new help. Flowtron's gonna be helping out a lot. So yes, absolutely. Daz, when's your next stream?
I'm not streaming tomorrow. I'm not doing the wind down tomorrow. Taking my kids to the beach tomorrow, so I will not be doing the wind up. So Friday evening, 10 p.m. Eastern, for our house where everybody's home, everybody's welcome.
Cool. All right. So we're going to head out here. Thank you, Daz, for being my co-host. Thanks to DJ Artistic, who was sharing some good knowledge.
Artistic is dope. Like, I've never seen that dude or heard of him. Like, I was like, I hope Amani don't ask me none of the questions that he asked Artistic. I was like, because I'm be like, whatever Artistic said, yep, me too.
Yeah. He's dope. Like LA, he's FAMU, so HBCU, like many of us. So yeah, he's excellent on Twitter. So follow him. He's an advocate. So for sure. So great show today. Thank y'all for tuning in. I love my university here. We're gonna keep this going. I think we missed a month because I was traveling. I will be back in town 2 weeks from Sunday. I'm out this coming week, starting Friday. So I'll be back 2 weeks from Sunday. Got another trip planned, another work thing. So that's the raid message. We're going to go see DJ Mai Tai. I'm going to go over there. LV, thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you very much for doing what you do.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for being flexible, too. I know got screwed up last month. I called Amani today. I was like, man, please don't kill me, bro. He was like, what? I was like, don't kill me. He was like, what? Amani that's that laugh, like, stop fucking around. Tell me what's going on here.
Yes. ABT, what's up?
Right. I was like, nah, I'm just playing, bro. I just need to know what time to log in.
You played it well. Yes. Snoopy, what's good? Good to see you. Thank y'all for tuning in. Good to see everyone here.
Amani will slap y'all. Don't let Amani have to smack a bitch. I'm telling y'all, it's real.
The Twitch Wayne Brady.
Yeah. Exactly.
Remember it, yes. Candy Lee, yes. Okay. What's up here? We good.
Bruce Holly Rock. Appreciate y'all. Misty Christie, Alex, your mods, everybody, all of y'all over there. Appreciate your
Yes,
crew,
I like
man.
that. The dad said the Twitch Wayne Brady. I'll take that. I'll accept
Yep.
that. All right, you all be safe. I'll see y'all in a couple weeks, and we out. I think. Hold on.
Yep. Gone.